I watched Channel 4 News last night, and I got to 40 minutes in, and I thought, are they going to mention the fact that Keir Starmer is under the cosh here? That, you know, Lord Ali and the revelations coming out of the penthouse, the £18 million penthouse are getting worse. That, you know, the Labour Party's, you know, sort of folding in on itself.
I don't like them because they don't like me. I don't like it when a couple of people at the top, the Janet Street Porter types, decide what viewers can see or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but you must have when you started out, it must have been a dream come true getting on all these TV shows.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
and then it sort of all comes down around. I mean, it's not just happened to you, it's happened to many of us.
Yeah, you do get the bit of a cancel thing going on, but you just got to deal with that. That's part of the job.
For months, the Labour Party has carried itself like it was untouchable, as if the rules that bind ordinary people somehow don't apply to them. But this week, that illusion shattered. Keir Starmer, the man who built his reputation on integrity and fairness, suddenly finds himself at the centre of a storm that threatens to tear his leadership apart.
I mean, this is unbelievable to me.
So I think there is something bigger going on here, and it's annoying because I don't know what it is. And I know that the lobby of political journalists at Westminster feel the same. All of us instinctively feel that there is some big fact here that we're not being made.
I mean, I'm going to ask the question because nobody else will. Is it some kind of sex thing, do you think?
It began with whispers around Lord Wahid Ali, a billionaire donor with deep ties to Labour, and an £18 million penthouse that has become the backdrop for some very uncomfortable questions. The story took a darker turn when comedian Jim Davidson dropped a bombshell during a private performance in Westminster, claiming explosive CCTV footage exists that paints Starmer in a compromising light. According to insiders, the footage was shown to Starmer's wife, Victoria, at a charity event. The fallout was immediate. She was said to have stormed out in tears and sought legal advice, sparking rumours of a looming split inside Britain's most scrutinised political marriage. Downing Street has brushed off the story as nonsense. But behind closed doors, Labour aides are panicking. Cease and desist letters are flying, legal threats are mounting, and attempts are being made to wipe traces of the footage from online platforms. The harder Starmer's camp pushes to silence the narrative, the more people believe there's something serious being hidden.
And that is, for me, possibly the worst and most damaging aspect of this story. That this is a guy who is leading our country, who is the representative of the United Kingdom at the United Nations. You know, he's not the head of state, but he's, you know, the leader of the nation. He has lived a complete lie. I mean, I've said earlier today in the show, I don't know what he gets up to with Lord Ali. I don't know what he does for hours and hours on end at this flat that they seem to be happy to share.
Jim Davidson could have let his comments fade away, but instead he doubled down. After reportedly viewing the CCTV footage himself, he described it as stomach-turning, a description that rattled Westminster and drew attention from every corner of the political world. For years, Davidson was dismissed as a relic of a past era, but suddenly his voice carried the weight of a whistleblower. The impact on Starmer has been severe. He once positioned himself as the man who would clean up politics after the Tory scandals, the figure who promised to restore trust. Now, that very image is cracking under the weight of allegations that he is guilty of the same hypocrisy he condemned. Inside Labour, frustration is bubbling. Senior figures are beginning to question whether Starmer is becoming a liability. Some MPs, speaking privately, admit they've discussed contingency plans to replace him before the next election. It isn't just the fear of a media scandal. It's the sense that Starmer is dragging the entire party into a credibility crisis that could cost them power.
He said, I voted Labour all my life, but I now cannot bring myself to do so anymore because of the terrible corruption that is going on inside the party.
Davidson's most cutting remark was aimed directly at that weak spot. He accused Starmer of being a leader propped up by a billionaire donor who, behind the scenes, may be influencing policy and even providing cover for questionable dealings. To many, this wasn't comedy, it was a brutal reality check. If the allegations alone weren't enough, the silence from mainstream broadcasters has only made things worse. Viewers who tuned into Channel 4 or the BBC noticed the absence of coverage, and that silence has sparked a wave of suspicion. People are beginning to ask whether major networks are deliberately shielding Starmer from scrutiny, creating the impression of a political cover-up. At the heart of it all lies Lord Ali's £18 million penthouse, a place that seems to keep reappearing in every version of the story. It has hosted private Labour events, fundraising dinners and late-night meetings, with senior figures like Wes Streeting making appearances. For many, the location has become symbolic of the blurred lines between politics and privilege.
And the excuses that just don't add up. Now, for 7 weeks, the Starmer clan stayed in Lord Wahid Ali, Dr. Feelgood for the Labour Party. You need stuff? I got money. What do you need? I got money. Holidays. You want to go to New York? Yeah. What you looking for? What
Loans,
you like?
loans.
£1.2 million. I think I can help you. You know, it's just ridiculous. And that's the problem. It's the scale of this.
The secrecy surrounding what really happens there is fueling anger. Journalists inside Westminster have admitted privately that they feel something significant is being hidden, a key detail that hasn't yet been revealed. Some even suggest the unanswered questions point to something much bigger, something the public hasn't been told. And in the background, the rumours keep growing louder. Is this simply a case of poor judgment and bad optics? Or is it tied to something far more damaging? That uncertainty is what keeps the story alive, despite every attempt from Labour's leadership to bury it. As if the penthouse questions weren't damaging enough, fresh revelations about luxury gifts have thrown more fuel onto the fire. Records now show that Lord Ali showered the Starmers with high-end clothing worth thousands of pounds. Victoria Starmer received more than £5,000 sterling, 0 pence, in designer outfits, while Keir himself accepted nearly £19,000 sterling, 0 pence worth of luxury items.
And it wouldn't be fair to go any further than that, but this is an open secret at Westminster that those question marks have been around for a long time, and papers have been extraordinarily restrained in not publishing any of that speculation. And even whether they've got, maybe there are publications that have more information than I'm aware of. They've been
on paper, these donations were eventually declared, but the delay in revealing Victoria's gifts raised immediate red flags. Critics accused the Prime Minister of selective transparency, only coming clean after media scrutiny forced his hand. That delay has added to the growing suspicion that the public isn't being told the full story. Starmer's defence that the clothes helped him and his wife appear presentable at public events hasn't landed well. For a leader who earns a taxpayer-funded salary and a spouse who has her own successful career, the excuse has been widely ridiculed. To many, it feels like a man of privilege leaning on donors to maintain a lifestyle. While claiming to stand up for ordinary working families, the optics are toxic. Every detail undermines the very image Starmer has tried to project. The clean, disciplined leader fighting against excess and privilege. Instead, he risks looking like he is enjoying the perks of power while keeping voters in the dark.
Victoria Starmer has been wearing high-end clothes given to her by a Labour donor. Lord Ali recently gifted her more than £5,000 worth of clothing. He's also given the PM items worth almost £19,000. Starmer did declare his gifts to Parliament, but not his wife's. The gifts have now been registered after the Prime Minister sought advice. And the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner has rejected calls from the Tories for an...
The whispers about Lord Ali's penthouse reached a boiling point when reports of leaked CCTV footage began circulating. According to multiple insiders, the recordings don't just show routine comings and goings. They allegedly capture late-night meetings, unexpected visitors, and private exchanges that could raise both ethical and legal questions. The most damaging claim is that some of this footage was shown directly to Victoria Starmer at a charity event. What followed, according to those present, was explosive. She was said to have stormed off in tears, later seeking legal advice and distancing herself from her husband. Whether or not every detail is true, the perception of a marriage under pressure has become impossible to ignore.
Investigation. But does it even matter?
Yes. He's so rich, he can buy whatever he wants.
He earns enough money to buy a nice frock for his wife.
But it is a bit scummy of him, especially considering the promises that he made.
I think he should have donated them to people that need them.
If you are the Prime Minister, you should lead by example.
Well, I don't think no matter what he wears, he ain't going to look good, is he?
MPs are allowed to accept gifts, but they must declare anything which could be regarded as influencing their actions. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the Starmers had accepted the gifts so they could look their best for the British people. The Prime Minister said it's important to have transparency and insisted the rules are being followed.
Starmer's team has responded with a heavy hand. Journalists who tried to dig deeper say they've been met with intimidation, some even threatened with losing press credentials. Tech companies have reportedly been pressured into removing clips or discussions online. But instead of killing the story, these aggressive tactics have only amplified it. The harder Starmer pushes back, the more the public suspects there's something to hide. For a leader who promised accountability and openness, the contrast couldn't be sharper. What was once a tale of luxury perks has now escalated into something that feels far darker, with the potential to reshape his political career entirely. Behind the polished speeches and official statements, Labour insiders are growing restless. For months, many MPs believed Starmer was the safest bet to lead the party back into power. But now, as fresh headlines link him to secret gifts, undisclosed perks and those explosive CCTV claims, that confidence is fading fast.
Keir Starmer has made an absolutely shocking admission today. He has announced that globalization is over. Now, this will be quite shocking to some of you guys because I know a lot of you in the comments like to call him things like a globalist puppet. He loves to spend his time abroad at conventions with all his bureaucrat mates who absolutely are obsessed with the idea of globalization. And don't forget that he went viral for this clip here.
Let us just ask you quickly, you have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Why?
Because Westminster is too constrained, and it's closed, and we're not having meaning. Once you get out of Westminster, whether it's Davos or anywhere else, you actually engage with people that you can see working with in the future. Westminster is just a tribal shout.
Some within Labour privately admit they've started weighing alternatives. A few MPs see Starmer not as an asset, but as a ticking liability, someone who could drag the entire party down if the scandal deepens. Whispers of potential successors are beginning to circulate in Westminster's corridors, a dangerous sign for any sitting leader. The fear isn't only about public perception, it's about credibility. Labour has spent years branding itself as the antidote to Tory privilege and hypocrisy. But if its own leader is seen to be indulging in the same luxury perks, how can the party argue it represents ordinary working families? That contradiction is becoming harder to ignore. Starmer's critics inside the party say this isn't just a public relations problem, it's a trust problem. And trust, once lost, is almost impossible to regain. For some MPs, the question is no longer whether this scandal damages Labour, it's whether Starmer himself can survive it.
Well, the main story on the Mail cover, Starmer, the 18 million penthouse and excuses that don't add up.
Yeah.
What's going on there, Steve?
So he used Lord Ali's penthouse. Lord Ali's the one who's given him all the money, all the glasses, all the clothes. Why has Keir Starmer got a sugar daddy? Why are we not? Is he selling feet pics? Is this what's happening? These are the questions we need to know. He used this place because he needed a quiet place for his son to study some GCSEs. Look, I can start to believe this. No, I understand. You do anything for your kids. But he misses the point. He says it didn't cost the taxpayers anything. We're not worried about it costing us. We're worried about what someone else has paid for.
Well, also, doesn't he say that this was his one life chance to study for GCSE? This is how Starmer's described it. This is your one life chance. As though if you mess up.
While Labour MPs scramble behind closed doors, ordinary voters are venting their frustration in the open. Social media platforms have been flooded with posts mocking the Prime Minister and his ties to Lord Ali. Memes labelling Ali as Starmer's sugar daddy have gone viral, cutting through the polished political spin and turning the controversy into a cultural punchline. For many, it isn't about the fine details of declarations or parliamentary standards, it's about optics. A leader who claims to fight for working-class families is seen accepting luxury clothing, living in a multi-million-pound penthouse, and allegedly leaning on one donor for perks that most people could never imagine affording. That disconnect is fueling anger and disillusionment. The silence from mainstream broadcasters has only added fuel to the fire. Viewers notice when stories disappear from the evening news, and the gap is quickly filled by online voices, independent commentators, and viral clips. To the public, it feels like an establishment effort to protect Starmer at the expense of transparency.
oh yeah, you're not going to get into Oxbridge or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's, I mean, look, you know the famous old saying, there's no such thing as an £18 million free flat.
No, that's true.
So, this is, it's the hypocrisy. We're having like hypocrisy squared on top of each other, because he's a hypocrite, or the Labour Party being hypocrites by saying, look at those Tories taking, billions, and whatever. And then the Tories are now going, look at Labour. But it's like, you guys got all the free stuff as well. Everybody's getting the free stuff.
Yeah, but Labour are saying...
I'm not getting the free stuff.
All of the Labour people that I've heard speak about this are saying that they've declared everything properly, they've gone through the proper channels, no one's done anything wrong.
Well,
that's the claim.
The rules are wrong, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe no one should be getting any free stuff.
And
Maybe.
also,
I'd
if
like
your position, if you're setting out your stall as, I'm the anti-sleaze, the corruption-free guy, then don't go near anything. Don't take anything for free, just in case.
The result is a growing mood of distrust. People are tired of double standards and polished excuses. Every fresh revelation adds to the perception that Starmer isn't the straight-talking reformer he once claimed to be, but another figure entangled in privilege and secrecy. And once the public begins to see a leader through that lens, it's a hard narrative to reverse. The penthouse and designer clothing are only part of the puzzle. At the core of this controversy is money and the influence it buys. Lord Wahid Ali has become one of Labour's most significant donors, a man whose wealth seems to flow directly into the lifestyle of the party's leader. From accommodation worth £450 sterling, 0 pence a night, to luxury wardrobes valued in the tens of thousands, the generosity appears endless.
This is like is this the only billionaire that supports Labour? I think it's a bit sad that he seems to, this Ali...
Yeah, he's buying them clothes,
he's like,
buying them food.
They've got no one else to go, because they said, oh, what's his first name? Is his first name Ali? Yeah, no, his surname's Ali. Lord Ali.
Lord is his first
I was looking for it was Lord, yes. Lord Ali.
Yes.
They were like, well, is it Lord Ali's flat? He's like, yeah, of course it is.
So he's the only donor at this point.
It seems so.
They would all starve without him.
Lord Ali must be sat there and his phone rings. He's like, oh, Starmer again.
He's just going to give him the bank details and let him get on with it.
On the surface, these gifts have been logged and declared, but the deeper question is why they were accepted in the first place. For a party that constantly champions equality and rails against privilege, the optics of living off billionaire perks are devastating. Critics argue that it undermines every speech Labour makes about fairness, opportunity, and breaking down class divides. What troubles many observers is how concentrated this support is. If Lord Ali is indeed the main financial lifeline, it raises an uncomfortable issue. How much of Labour's image and decision-making rests on the backing of one man? That dependency doesn't just look bad, it risks shaping policy in ways the public may never see. For voters already sceptical about politics, this only reinforces the belief that leaders aren't working for them, but for the elite who bankroll their campaigns. And in this case, the fact that those elites appear to provide a lifestyle rather than simple donations makes it all the more damning. When questions first surfaced about why the Starmers were staying in Lord Ali's penthouse, Keir's explanation seemed straightforward. He claimed the move was to give his son a quiet environment to prepare for his GCSE exams. On the surface, it sounded reasonable, but as details trickled out, the story began to unravel. Reports revealed the family remained in the luxury apartment for 7 weeks, long after the exams had finished. That single detail set off alarm bells. Why extend the stay in one of the most extravagant properties in London when the original purpose had already passed? Critics point out that if it was truly about studying, other options could have sufficed. A library or even temporary accommodation far less lavish would have met the same need without raising eyebrows. The longer the timeline stretched, the more questions piled up. Who else stayed at the penthouse during that period? Was the arrangement purely personal? Or did it involve something more? And why did the explanation keep shifting every time new details came to light? This lingering gap in Starmer's story is what keeps people suspicious. If the decision was as innocent as he claims, why does the timeline suggest otherwise? For many, it feels less like transparency and more like damage control, and the absence of clear answers only deepens the distrust. From luxury wardrobes to multi-million-pound penthouses, the controversy is no longer about isolated favours. It's about a clear pattern. Keir Starmer, a leader who speaks endlessly about fairness and accountability, is now tied to the very kind of privilege he vowed to oppose. Every new detail makes the image of a principled reformer harder to believe, and the cracks in his credibility are beginning to show. At its core, this scandal isn't about one donor or one penthouse. It's about trust. Voters expect honesty from their leaders, and every unanswered question only feeds suspicion. If Keir Starmer can't convince the public that he is being fully transparent, the damage won't stop at his reputation. It could spill over into the entire Labour Party, leaving voters to wonder if the man who promised integrity has been playing by a different set of rules all along.